All right. Hello, hello. Give this another second or two. Let some folks join us today. All right, we're going to go ahead and get started. So thank you for being here. Thank you. If you're watching the replay, thank you for watching the replay. I'm so glad that you're here. I'm really excited to spend the next half hour or so. We might go a few minutes over, but talking about introvert-friendly ways to initiate conversations with new people, because I know this is something that most introverts really struggle with. And this is something I'm super excited to talk about. So this is the final part in a 3-part series called Confidently Cultivating Connections as an Introvert. So if you missed the first 2 parts of this, let me know, and I'm happy to send over a link to the replay. Because in part 1, I talked about how to leverage your comfort zone to get out there and meet new people, because I don't feel like you have to get out of your comfort zone in order to grow and evolve, especially when it comes to meeting new people. I think for introverts, it can be much more powerful to learn how to actually leverage your comfort zone so that when you're meeting people, it's in a more authentic and natural way. In part 2, I talked about how to manage your energy as an introvert so that when you're going out and you're meeting new people, you're not left exhausted and energetically drained. I think learning to manage your energy is one of the most important things you can do as an introvert. I talk about it in pretty much everything that I do when I'm talking about any topic related to introversion, because it's something that is just so important. If you learn how to go out and meet new people, or really to do anything, but if you go out and learn to meet new people in a way that doesn't leave you exhausted and drained, then you're not going to resist it as much. So that's why it's super, super important to learn how to do that. So if you missed either of those, let me know. I'm happy to send a replay over for you to watch that and check it out. But today, I'm going to continue the conversation as we wrap up this 3-part series, and I'm going to be sharing some introvert-friendly conversation starters, mindset shifts, so that as you are going out and meeting new people, you're going to feel more confident and comfortable walking up to new people and starting conversations. Because again, I know this is something that is super, super scary for us introverts. I spent years resisting it, but it can be easy and it can be fun when you learn how to do it and you start practicing it. All right, so if you are here with me, then just leave a comment. Let me know you're here. Let me know maybe even where you're watching from. But we are going to get started on why we are here. So if you've joined me for the last couple of these series, in this 3-part series, I've shared this, but I think it's really important to share it again. But when we are going out to try to meet new people, whether it's for business reasons, career, personal, we want to meet new friends, maybe we're wanting to go out and meet new people to date, to get into relationships with, doesn't really matter. Whenever we're putting ourselves out there to meet new people, it can feel really, really scary. And there's a lot of pressure that we put on ourselves. There's a lot of expectations. And sometimes my streaming software says LinkedIn user. So if I don't say your name and I do say other people's names, I'm not ignoring you. So LinkedIn user, hi, so glad you were here. I'll be able to see who you are a little bit later, but thank you. Okay, so when we are going out and meeting new people, we put a lot of pressure on ourselves. We put a lot of expectations on ourselves, and we think that we have to achieve this certain standard. And so it can be really, really hard and really challenging to show up confidently and authentically as ourselves, especially as introverts, because I believe that there is this vast collective misunderstanding about what it means to be an introvert, even amongst introverts. And so that means a lot of introverts, when they're trying to put themselves out there to meet new people, they're doing it in a way that really isn't aligned for them. It's not really organic. So they're trying to, step out of their shell, step out of their comfort zone. They're trying to be more extroverted. And these are all strategies that will only end up costing you your confidence and leaving you energetically drained. So we are here to learn a new way, a new approach to meeting new people, so that you're connecting with them in a meaningful way that allows them to meet you authentically, meet the authentic you. It fuels your confidence and it doesn't leave you exhausted, all without having to fake it as an extrovert. So today, what I'm going to be talking about is, one, why it's important to make that first step and to start the conversation with people, even as an introvert. I'm going to share a few mindset shifts with you for things that are common challenges that a lot of introverts experience when it comes to trying to initiate conversations with people so that you can shift your frame of mind. So, again, it doesn't feel quite as scary to go out and start talking to people. And then finally, I'm going to share three very easy to use conversation starters that you can start using today, tomorrow, this weekend to start initiating conversations with people. And these are ones that I use all the time. These are my go-tos that I use whether I'm at the Starbucks and I'm waiting in line, whether I'm at a networking event, whether I'm at a party, whatever it is. These are the three that I always use to start conversations with people. All right, so if this is your first time joining me or your first time you're watching one of my lives, welcome. I want to take a few minutes just to introduce myself. I'm Vicki Regina. I like to say that I am a hardcore and proud introvert. I'm a certified mindset and confidence coach for introverts, and I work exclusively with introverts because I know what it's like to feel like, I know what it's like to feel like I don't fit into a world that doesn't really fit me. I know what it's like to feel like, I'm at a disadvantage because I'm not extroverted. I know how draining it feels to be surrounded by people all the time and then to sometimes feel guilty about it. But I also know what it's like to overcome all those beliefs that told me that I was limited because I was an introvert. I know what it's like to find my way to do pretty much anything. I found that once I recognize that I don't have to do things the way society tells me to, and I can find my way to do it, then I pretty much open up the door to be able to do all these things that I used to tell myself I couldn't do because I was an introvert. I know what it's like to not feel guilty, to spend time alone away from my loved ones to recharge. And I know what it's like to grow in ways that I never really thought that I could because I was willing to challenge the whole idea that you have to step out of your comfort zone to grow. I learned how to do that within my comfort zone. And this is what I do with my clients to teach them how to do that, because I feel like for most introverts, that space outside of their comfort zone is the extrovert zone. And when you step into that space, you're pretending to be something that you're not, which actually ends up working against you. So because of all of this, my mission is to disrupt how our society views introversion so that introverts feel empowered to confidently be themselves without having to feel like they have to magically morph into an extrovert every time they walk out of their house. So I specifically work with my introverted clients to help them learn how to work within their comfort zone so that they can go and create and establish those loving relationships that they are in, supportive relationships that they're craving, but they're currently feeling resistant to going out and to create, whether that be personal, professional, or social. So with all of that out of the way, let's dive into today's topic. So the first piece that I want to talk about is why it's important to start the conversation with new people. Now, I know as introverts, it can be really easy just to kind of stand there and wait for somebody to come up to you and start the conversation. I did that for years. Not going to lie, still sometimes do it. Depends on where my energy is. But it is actually a really good practice to learn how to start initiating conversations with people, because it puts it. Well, let's actually start off with why, the whole purpose of what conversations are. So let's say that you're at a networking event or you're at a social event, maybe you're at a party. The whole point or the goal of starting a conversation or even talking to people is what? It's to foster meaningful connections. Now, not all meaningful connections are going to last a lifetime. Not all connections are going to become these deep, meaningful connections. They're not supposed to be. As introverts, we can't handle having hundreds of deep, meaningful connections. We can really only handle, because we do like to go deep with people, we can really only handle having a few. So everybody that we talk to, it's not supposed to turn into deep, meaningful relationships. And also, I believe that connections can happen in the moment, just small connections. It doesn't have to be forever. And as human beings, even though we are, as introverts, we love to spend time alone, we are still human beings, and we are designed to be connected to other people. So it's really important to learn to have these conversations and learn to start conversations, because it's going to help you to get in the driver's seat so that you are being intentional with who you're talking to. You are being intentional with reaching out to people that you are maybe energetically attracted to, or there's a match, energetically a match for you, so that you're taking control of the process. You're not standing on the sideline just waiting for like, well, I guess I'll just talk to whoever happens to come up and talk to me. It could be 3 other people in the room that are more aligned for you to talk to. And so this is giving you the opportunity to get in the driver's seat and take control of that. And also, I feel like introverts have a really good sense of picking up on other people's energy. So like when I walk into an event for the first time, since I'm also maybe a little nervous, I will kind of just walk around the room for like a couple of minutes just to kind of let my nerves calm down. But also I'm taking a pulse of the room, and I'm sort of gauging like, who do I feel energetically drawn to? And that may sound kind of weird, but it's like, who do I feel curious about? Who am I looking at and like, ooh, that could be an interesting person to talk with. Those are the people that once I get a feel for that, I just trust that instinct. And those are the ones that I then know I can just target. Those are the people I'm going to go try to talk to. I don't have to talk to everybody in the room. So that's why I feel like when you learn how to do these conversations, you can be more intentional with the connections that you are making. I also feel like when you learn how to feel confident walking up to people and starting conversation, I like to say that it shows confidence and it grows confidence. So it grows confidence from the perspective of you're getting out of like your normal routine. So I don't want to say you're getting out of your comfort zone. When you learn to do this from within your comfort zone, you are learning how to do it in ways that honor who you are, that honors your preference for interacting with people. It honors your strengths and your gifts. And some of that's a little bit of an exploration to figure out what that means for you. But as you do that, you're expanding the edges of your comfort zone and your confidence will grow. But it also shows confidence to other people. I mean, how many times have you been somewhere where you've just kind of been standing on the sidelines when somebody comes up and talks to you, when they come up and start a conversation with you? What's your impression of that? I know for me, I feel like they're a very confident person. So when you walk up, and even if you don't feel confident, just by taking that action, they're going to see you as confident. So it's very admirable, and it just increases your interest to other people. And the more that you do this, the more you practice this, the more comfortable you're going to get with it. And the more comfortable you're going to find yourself just in general being around other people. And that's something also introverts struggle with. So it ends up helping you in other areas of your life. All right, so now let's talk about the second part of today's talk, which is some mindset shifts. So when it comes to starting conversations with strangers, this can be very scary for introverts. I think probably we're all really scared about that. That's just not something I think that necessarily comes naturally for us. And as I've talked to introverts over the years, as I work exclusively with introverts, being an introvert myself and having struggled with this in the past, I feel like there are 3 primary challenges that make it so scary for introverts. And so we're going to dig into each of these a little bit, but the 3 challenges that I find for most introverts when it comes to feeling really nervous or scared about walking up to strangers and starting a conversation is 1, not knowing or not feeling sure on what to say to kick off the conversation. The second thing that I find a lot of people struggle with the idea of starting conversations is being or feeling afraid that they're going to have to carry the conversation after they start the conversation. And then the third one is just the fear of being judged or rejected. So if any of those resonate, if any of those feel like, oh yeah, all of those, number 1 does, number 3 does, drop a comment in because I'd be curious to see which ones resonate with you. But we're going to explore each of those as we go through this. And I'm going to give you some like a different way to think about each of those. So hopefully if those do resonate with you, then it will help to dial those down a little bit. So they're not quite as, they don't feel quite as challenging as they might right now. So as we dig into this, or right before we dig into this, I want to give you just a couple of things to keep in mind. Yeah, all of them, right? Absolutely. So I want to give you a couple of things to keep in mind before I give you these mindset shifts. So 1, the mindset shifts that I'm going to give you are going to help you to stay within your comfort zone. Now, I talked about the zones of your comfort zone in part one. So if you missed that, let me know. But just a really, really quick recap so you know what I'm talking about here. So from my perspective, I see your comfort zone as having three distinct zones or regions. The center of your comfort zone, at the core, the heart of your comfort zone is what I call the cozy zone. And that's generally where you go to recharge. You're usually by yourself. That's where you feel your most you. That is where you are gaining energy back that you might have lost. You might right now be thinking of this as just what your comfort zone is, just in general. But I feel like that's just like the heart, the core of our comfort zone. Just outside of that is what I call the familiar zone. And I feel like for most of the time that we're in our comfort zone, where we're not by ourselves, we're in this familiar zone. And this is where we are in situations where we're not like by ourselves recharging. We're probably with other people, but we feel 100% comfortable. We feel we can totally be ourselves. We don't have to have our guard up. We don't have to put a mask on. So it's like when you are with your closest friends, maybe your family, maybe work. But it's a place where, yes, you're around other people. So it's going to take some energy, but it's not like it's a slow drain on your energy. And you feel really pretty comfortable. And then the third zone is what I call the border zone. So this is right along the edges, the border of your comfort zone, but within your comfort zone. And this is where growth can happen while you're still in your comfort zone. So yes, you're going to feel a little discomfort because you're on the edges of your comfort zone, but it's not to the extreme, or it's not as overwhelming as when you're outside of your comfort zone. And because you're still within your comfort zone, you're able to tap into your strengths and your skills and tap into your confidence. You're able to still be a more authentically you. So if you missed that part one where I go into more detail on this, let me know. I can send you the link. But that when you learn to leverage those three zones, that is when you can really, really grow more organically and in a more healthy, sustainable way. Now, the second thing to understand is when we talk about conversation starters, and I'm going to give you three of those in just a few minutes, but conversation starters, conversation openers, that can still feel a little scary sometimes. But I want you to think about that from the perspective of a conversation starter is just initiating an initial connection. It doesn't actually have to mean that a conversation will follow. If a conversation is meant to happen, then it will. If a conversation isn't meant to happen, then it won't. It's just simply an invitation. So a conversation starter is just an invitation. So if you can think about it like that, hopefully that will take some of the pressure off, the pressure of like the conversation that follows being, it just makes it a much bigger thing. But it's really, again, it's just a few words coming out of your mouth to energetically invite somebody to connect further. So with all of that in mind, let's talk about the first mindset shift, which is the first of the three that I just mentioned a few minutes ago. Not sure what to say to start the conversation. This is really, really common. And when we're feeling that, we're all up in our head, and our head is just like filled with all these thoughts of like, oh my gosh, I don't know what to say. What am I going to do? And, what if I say the wrong thing? So if this is one that you resonate with, there's some underlying beliefs or thoughts that might be fueling that. So you might be thinking things like, I have nothing interesting to say, or I don't know what I'm supposed to say, or what if they think I'm weird, or whatever word your brain likes to tell you when it's judging you, or, oh my gosh, I'm going to say something stupid, or they're not going to want to talk to me, which underlying that is there's something wrong with me. So if any of those are resonating, there's a couple of things at play here. The first thing that's at play is you're putting a lot of pressure on yourself. So the mindset shift here is to give yourself some slack, cut yourself some slack, because it doesn't actually have to be that hard. Sometimes starting a conversation is just as simple as saying hi. That's it. So, and like I said, I'm going to be giving you 3 easy conversation starters in just a minute. And that the whole point of that, the reason that I want to give those to you later as we get through this is because I want to help you take some of that pressure off so that when you are going into some sort of event, you're not sitting there thinking, I don't know what to say. I don't know how to start a conversation with somebody, because you're going to have 3 different things that you can use. And here's the thing, when it comes to starting conversations, I'm going to let you in on a little secret. It doesn't really matter what you say, because nobody's going to remember. Do you remember, like, if you think to your best friend, I mean, I think there might be a few situations, but for the most part, when you think to everybody that you know in your life, do you remember the first thing they said to you? Some people you might, but I would guess for the most part, you don't remember what they said when you first met. I don't even remember things that people said to me that didn't turn into a relationship or a connection. People don't remember. Like if I was at a party, like maybe it was a barbecue. If I was like at a barbecue and standing outside, if I walked up to somebody and said, "The grass is purple," and assuming the grass was not painted purple, it was like in its natural state, you might think that would be something really weird to say to somebody. Maybe it is, but I guarantee you it would probably lead to some interesting conversations. So the point there is it doesn't really matter what you say. But if you get hung up on this, I'm going to give you three easy ones that you can keep in mind. But I also want you to remember, in terms of a mindset shift, that it doesn't really matter. Okay. The second part of this is I want you to keep in mind that one issue, if you're worried about, not having something to kick a conversation off with, you might be making it too personal, where you're making it be about you if they don't really want to talk or if they don't feel like talking. So you might be thinking like, well, I'm a loser. No one wants to talk to me. I'm boring. So the mindset shift here is to just think about starting a conversation as taking a temperature. Is this person open to talking? They might have had a really bad day and just don't feel like talking, and it has nothing to do with you. So the goal is just to start a conversation, and it's an invitation. Do they want to talk? Do they not want to talk? And if they don't want to talk, it doesn't have to mean anything. So when it comes to good conversations, it's just really a matching of energy. And that all happens at the subconscious level. It's not something that we control. So if there is an energetic match between you and somebody else, it will likely lead to a conversation. And if not, it won't. And that's actually a really good thing. So you can kind of think of initiating a conversation as almost just like a filter. Like, is this somebody that our energy is matching or not? And if it is, then a conversation will likely flow from it. So the point here is, don't judge yourself by the outcome, because that will help take the pressure off of trying to get it right. Because again, it doesn't matter what you say to start the conversation. Now, mindset shift number 2 is around the fear of having to carry the conversation after you start the conversation. So if that's you, you're probably thinking things like, well, I don't know what to say if we do start talking. Like, what am I going to follow up with? You might be afraid that it's going to turn into small talk, or you might just feel like, oh my gosh, this is going to be exhausting to try to have to carry this conversation. So the main issue here is that you're believing you're going to have to do all the work, and that ends up feeling very scary and exhausting. So the mindset shift here is to let the other people do the work. Most people love to talk about themselves. If you just give them an opening, they're going to run with it, and you don't have to actually do anything. So that's a really great tip. Eventually, once you get more comfortable starting conversations and you're comfortable just talking with people, you're going to be able to carry and lead the conversations. But initially, don't worry about it. Just look at it from the perspective, I'm going to start a conversation and I'm just going to let them take it from there, because most people will. All right. The third mindset shift is being afraid of being judged or rejected. Now, that's a very common thing. Most of us experience that. That's the product of our inner critics, and they're trying to protect us and trying to keep us safe. They don't want you to get judged or rejected, so they make you really worried about that. But here's the thing about it. Most people, just like you're up in your head worried about that, so is everybody else. Most people are not thinking about you nearly as much as you are thinking about you, because they're thinking about themselves. So as you get more comfortable going out and talking with people and meeting with people and having conversations with people that you don't know, and that will happen as you practice, that fear is going to diminish because your confidence is going to grow. So the mindset shift here is just something I want you to keep in mind whenever you hear that, is to remind yourself that I'm judging myself more harshly than anyone else ever will. So you just want to thank those parts of you that are trying to protect you and just tell them, hey, self, I hear you. I'm not listening to this today. I'm not buying into this story today. I do that all the time. That's my strategy whenever I'm out and about and my inner critics start to come in with the judgy talk in my mind. I just catch it and I say, thank you very much. I'm not buying into this today. But that takes awareness. It takes practice. It's not something that we normally do because you're probably so used to those voices in your head that they just feel like it's true. something I work, that's something I work on a lot with my clients, because it takes having awareness of what you're saying, awareness to catch it, and awareness to actually reject it. But it is a strategy that you can use to get ahead of those thoughts so that they don't take over and take control. All right. So now that I've talked about why it's important to learn to start conversations, I've kind of gone very quickly through three mindset shifts that you can use for common challenges that you might be experiencing when you're going out to meet new people. I want to get into the three easy to use conversation starters so you can start practicing these and using these today, tomorrow, this weekend. And remember, conversation starters are just a short invitation. So these are easy. These are, you might even be like, wow, that's it. That's all there is to it. But even though they're easy and they're really simple to use, you're probably still going to feel a little uncomfortable using them because you're just not used to starting conversations. And that's okay. The goal is just to have these like in your back pocket, in your toolkit, so that you can pull them out. You don't have to worry and be like overly concerned with like, oh my gosh, I have nothing to say, because you have them. And then just be willing to be uncomfortable using them. And then probably after one event, maybe two events, it's going to start to feel easier because these are super, super simple. So the first conversation starter, this is one of my favorites. And like I said, I use all three of these all the time. The first one is to compliment someone. So maybe you've heard this one before, but this one is such a wonderful way to start a conversation with somebody. You do want to be genuine. You don't want to compliment somebody on something that you don't actually like, because if it does lead to a conversation, then you're going to be in that fake mode where you're pretending to like something. So you want to be very genuine. You want to try to be specific. But the beauty of this one is what happens when you tell somebody that you like something. They'll usually tell you all about it. I just had this happen this morning. I went into work. I have a part-time job and I went into work, and one of the ladies I work with, and I've only worked here for 2 weeks, so I still don't know everybody that well. And she had on this beautiful wrap shawl thing, and it was really pretty. And I was like, and I told her, I was like, I really love that. That's so pretty. And she immediately just stopped and she was like, oh my gosh. And she's telling me all about it. And she told me where she got it. And then it led into a conversation about her shoes. And so it was this connection moment of where we were talking about things that we both liked, simply because I complimented her on something that I genuinely liked. So this is a really, really easy one to use. The beauty of it is that you're not asking a question. You are just saying something that makes somebody else feel good. And that will, a lot of times it will lead to a conversation. And this is one you can use anywhere. You can use it at work. You can use it at in the line at Starbucks. You can use it at a networking event, a party. It's a really, really wonderful one to use. The next one is to be vulnerable, but not too vulnerable. You don't have to like bare your soul. So I'll give you an example of what that sounds like, but this is a really, really good one to use if you're at like a social event, a networking event, a work event, something like that. I like to look around and look for the other people that are kind of standing on the sidelines, looking a little awkward, standing by yourself or by themselves, because generally that's the other introverts. But if those people are around, I will generally walk up to one of them, the one that I feel the most like energetically connected to, and I'll just start a conversation by saying something like, I don't know about you, but these type of events always make me feel so nervous. You could tack on to the end of that, how about you? You don't have to. But the beauty of this is the vulnerability breaks the ice like immediately. And it creates this instant connection that's going to help you to leapfrog over the small talk, because now you've connected over something that it's like a shared vulnerability. And if you've picked one of these people that's kind of on the side and that's also quiet and that's also looking really uncomfortable, they are going to thank you for coming up and talking with them so that they're not just standing there by themselves anymore. And when you've acknowledged that you feel uncomfortable, it makes it easy for them to acknowledge that. And you just have this instant connection. And if there's any sort of awkwardness in the conversation after it, you've already acknowledged that you're both nervous. So you don't have to have this pretense of like not being nervous. So this is a really, really powerful one to instantly start some good conversations with people. And the final one that I'm going to share with you is, I actually already told you about this one already, but it's just saying hi. It's just making eye contact with somebody, giving them a genuine smile and saying hi. That really communicates confidence. Even if you don't feel confident, it really communicates confidence. I know that one sounds simple, but it's super effective. The beauty of it is that it doesn't require anything of anyone else. It gives them an opening to talk with you if they feel like it without any sort of expectation. That one's one that when I'm out and about in public, and not in public, well, I guess in public, but when I'm like at an event, that one's a fun one because I can kind of do that as I'm going around kind of taking the pulse. And that helps me to kind of gauge the energy of whether I felt like there was a little bit of a connection there. So it helps me to narrow down who I'm going to talk to next. And when it comes to all three of these, what's really awesome is that none of them are asking a question. So none of it is forcing a conversation on anybody, which is really awesome when you're getting used to this and starting to try to feel comfortable with this. You're not forcing them to have to answer, but it's opening that door for them to start talking and for a conversation to flow. You can also layer these together. Like I will start out, like I said, with the hi, eye contact, genuine smile, hi. If it's somebody standing off by themselves, then I'll go in with the, gosh, I don't know about you, but these things always make me uncomfortable. Then I can always layer in a compliment as well. So if not maybe immediately after, but once the conversation is going. So if you get like 1 to 3 or to 5 sentences with each one of those, you've got the beginning of a really good conversation it's not starting off in that small talk area. So with all of that said, I would love to hear what you think about those 3 conversation starters because I have a challenge for you for the next week. So I would love to challenge you to just practice using one or all of those conversation starters. I'm not going to challenge you to actually like engage in a conversation with anybody. You might, it probably will lead to some conversations, but the goal is just to challenge yourself to start a conversation, just to use those conversation starters. I shouldn't even say that. The goal is really to just talk to strangers by using one of these 3 little conversation starters. Give a compliment, say hi, be vulnerable, and just see how it feels. Just play with it. And once you get more comfortable with that, then you're going to be able to start layering on like carrying the conversation forward. But for now, when it comes to just working within your comfort zone, you want to start small. So just start by, I would recommend the compliment one. That's the really, really easy one that makes other people feel weird, even if they're in a bad, I've never had anybody respond to my giving them a compliment with like what's wrong with you? Why are you talking to me? Like, even if somebody's in a bad mood, it makes them feel good. So that's a really easy one. I probably do that like every day because I love to compliment people. So yeah, give it a try, see what happens, and let your comfort zone start to expand as you get more confident just actually speaking with someone that you don't know. Now, if you're wanting to improve your conversation skills beyond the initial conversation, we didn't get into talking about that today. I do have a free workbook that's called The Art of Navigating Small Talk. This workbook is going to help you learn how to drive conversations out of that small talk space so that you can actually get into something more meaningful, which for introverts, we don't like doing small talk. We really like having like that meaningful, more deeper conversation. And that's what this workbook is going to help you to do. And again, it's a free workbook. If you click on the link, I'll drop it in the comments. If you click on the link, then once you put your email in and your information in, I will email that right to you. So you can start to go beyond the initial highs, hellos, compliments, whatever, and get to more meaningful conversation. So there's the link. And if this is something that just in general, trying to create these relationships that you really want in your life, whether they're business, career, personal, friends, whatever it is, if this is something that you really, really want in your life and you're struggling with it, then I really encourage you to jump on a call with me. I have a free 45-minute call where we can talk about that and we can explore what's working right now, what's not working, what it is that you ultimately want to get to, and what it's going to take to get there. So, if it does make sense for us to work together, we'll talk about that and explore that. If it doesn't and you're not interested, that's fine too. But the point is if this is something that you're really struggling with, then at least have this conversation with me so you can get more clarity around what the opportunities are for you, because this stuff is really, really important. Again, even though as introverts, we like spending time alone, we need to be connected with other people. We don't need to be connected with hundreds of people, but we need to find those key people that really understand us, really see us, really accept us. They become almost like the witnesses of our lives that go along beside us. And if that's something that you're really craving and you're struggling to get, then get on a call with me, because I would love to help you start that process. So I'm going to drop the link there for you to book that if that's something that you're interested in exploring. But otherwise, with that in mind, this is the conclusion of this 3-part series. So if you have any questions at all around working with, or I'm sorry, with, creating those, I'm trying to copy a link here, so my brain is not doing 2 things at once. But all right. And so that's if you want to book a call with me. So yes, if you have any questions on this, the conversation starters, if you have any questions on the comfort zone piece or the energy piece, then feel free to drop them into the comments, because I would love to answer those for you. And if you don't feel comfortable putting in the comments, then you can always DM them to me, because I would love to answer those questions for you. All right, so I don't see any questions coming in, which is perfectly fine. So again, if you have questions and you don't feel like dropping them here, or if you think of questions later today, tomorrow, this weekend, feel free to DM me, because I would love to answer those for you. Thank you for being here. Thanks for those of you who are here live, and I will see you for the next series that will come up in September. So be on the lookout for that when I announce that in the next week or so. So have a lovely evening.